Hello, 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 hello. How are you? I am fine. What are you up to? Hello, Sofa Squad. How's everybody doing? I hope y'all are doing well. Y'all already know the drill. Drop a 1 if you can hear me. Drop a 1 if you can hear me. Let's make sure that we're on par, that everyone's, hearing me, all that type of stuff. Okay. And we got ones. Hey John, hey Ashley, hey Alyssa, hey Brandy, Shelly, Jasmine, Karen, Emily. Welcome Emily to the sofa, everybody. She's our head sofa person. Friend, moderator. She keeps the sofa cushions fluffed for all of us and me in line. Hey, old soul. Hey, Huma. Hey, Audra. What's going on, Audra? Did you see Jenny made, if Jenny's in here, or did you see Jenny made, what is his name? Derek Lassiter posted his Instagram from CrimeCon, and she was on the first thing there. Thought it was a pretty cool claim to fame right there now. I hope everybody's doing well. Let me switch over to the actual room so I can see y'all in like real time. Okay, it's muted. Okay. Hey, Andy. Hey, old soul. I'm just kind of catching up with the names I see flashing by again. I hope everybody's doing well. Long time no see. So here's the drill, y'all. So basically today I recorded 2 videos, at which point I was like, I'm about to die to talk about them, but we'll break them up into 2 different things. Hey, Tori. I hope you're well. We're going to break them up into 2 different live chats. We'll probably do another one tomorrow night. So tonight we're going to be talking about, obviously, the cover of the video says, the Sherry Papini docuseries, The Perfect Wife. Or is she? That's what I think I'm going to title the thing. Y'all don't really... Well, let's just put this right here. Now, side note, Lifetime. This is what I'm thinking about doing, y'all tell me. I've kind of started that whole thing of like the little book... thing where I do the book readings and the film things, whatever. Okay. I was thinking of doing almost like Lifetime cringe, because they did a thing on what is the yoga teacher, the yoga killing, where the bicyclist, I can't think of the victim's name now. Then also on that, pardon me, they did one on this right here. And I was like, it's cringy as hell, right? Lifetime does pure cringe. Oh, thanks, Kay. Kay gifted everybody 5 memberships. It's like pure cringe, right? Okay, so I'm just like sitting here. I'm like, there's so many of these that I want to watch and like and talk about or whatever. So, but nonetheless, that's a whole other thing. We're gonna get to that later. So today we're going to be going over the actual docuseries. It's a 3-part series, and the video will come out. So I did a video for the other channel, so it's going to be more of like the edited my thoughts on it. But I figure we talk about it over here tonight, and then we'll talk about Tell Them You Love Me. I want to do that one tomorrow night because y'all, both of these damn near took me out. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I was like this afternoon. I was like, I've got to talk about this. Let me find my notes on it, and then we're going to go over it. So, I hope everybody's doing well. It's been hot here, but nice. Yes. I'm just now getting around to posting CrimeCon photos. I've had the worst time getting them out of my phone, uploaded to the thing, yada, yada, yada. It's been crazy. Okay. So, I thought I had to upload them all, and I found just a few today. So they'll be coming in droves or whatever. So if we got pictures, don't think that you've been left out or whatever is what I'm getting at. Okay, let me find Sherry. Y'all, this one. Okay, well, hold on. Let me get to it before I start talking. Lord knows I won't shut up. Is this it? The Perfect Wife. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let me just type it. Yeah, The Perfect Wife. Okay, so y'all. Hey Nirvana, hey Donna. I'm just checking out the other thing. Hey Denise. Hey Carol. Okay, so hey Lauren. Okay, so listen. Wing. This is the situation. This is the case of Sherry Papini. Okay? Here's what took place. So this is a 60-second overview, but you'll get the drift of it as we go through this. Sherry Papini, this is several years ago, basically went missing got plucked from the streets when she went for a jog. Husband comes home, calls police, finds her phone at the end of the road. Oh my God, you can only imagine, right? The community comes together. The world knows about it, right? 22 days later, and they have two small children. 22 days later, she reappears with this story, okay, of she alleges two Hispanic women. Oh wait, and I hate the distorted. I actually do have a thing. It might be too loud because I've got this little thing. Hold on. It might be too close to me though. Pardon me. Whoops. So, excuse me. So, she has a story that she claims that two Hispanic women kidnapped her off the streets, held her captive for 22 days, and then let her go because some drama went down between them, whatever. And she'll, allege that one of them saved her life, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, you can imagine people are freaked out, okay? Freaked out. Now, basically, fast forward, we're going to jump cut because we'll get more into the details here. It turns out she was lying the whole time. So she made this up. She gets caught in her lies. She gets sentenced. She has to pay money back, all this type of stuff. Keith is her husband. He leaves her. And that's basically where it's at. So this docuseries, that's like y'all, it's way deeper than that, but that's just the gist of it if you're unfamiliar with it. So Keith has finally spoken out and did this docuseries, which this is one of those where I'm like, thank God he did, right? Because you already know that he was blamed at first. Oh, he did it. Then it was, oh, they're in it together. You know what I'm saying? So. And yeah, where to go? Denise, that whole article about this, she still claims she did not write that article, but we know she wrote it, right? So this is one of the things that came out during this is there's this article that was found, and it was like basically under a pen name, but not a pen name. It was like pretty obviously her, and it was like very racist, to be honest. And it was like the fact that she came out and said that two Hispanic women did this and used like very like just oh, they had a bandana, like this kind of stereotypical type thing. And then she came out with this, or it was discovered this letter that she's like, I didn't do it, I didn't write that letter. But it all adds up. And then when she was like talking, we'll get to this, but some of her triggers, like the way she talked about it was bad, right? It was bad. Okay, so we'll get to all these little details of it or whatever because it's like insane, right? So anyways, so he comes out with this docuseries, this 3-part series. It's on Hulu. It's called The Perfect Wife. So there's some new information in it that makes her look even worse because, again, it's like, where do you go from here? You know what I'm saying? So there's that. So what I'm going to do is, if you watch my videos or watch this, you know that what I'll do is I'll sit here and I made notes on here, right? And I just kind of read through them. So that's what we're going to do here. And that's basically what my other video is, but it's more, put together or whatever. Not put together. Yeah, Michelina. I haven't seen her name right. But she says horrible Mexican music. Yeah. It was so obvious, her bias towards the Hispanic community. Number one, using them as the ploy for who took her, but then her things that she was saying and stuff like that, the comment, like she was talking about when she was in the van, they played this horrible Mexican music, and I'm like, oh my God. And then like her triggers and stuff, like, I couldn't get over this. One of her triggers was black beans. I was like, get out. Are you serious? Are you serious? Black beans makes me come on. Anyways, so let's start from the top here. So it's called The Perfect Wife in episode 1. It's a Wonderful Life with You, it's called. Now it starts off, it does a recap of events. This is basically what we just did. Keith comes home, he finds the phone. Anybody would be horrified, right? You know what I'm saying? Now they interview several people for this, and one of the interesting things that I found, at least, is they interviewed some of her family members, her sister and stuff, which kind of leads me to think that they've all written her off. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not written her off, but the fact that they're on here talking about this speaks volumes, right? So an officer who was on the scene was like, look, you know, I had to get my mind right to be like, what am I getting ready to walk into? This is not going to be good. So her sister's name is Sheila, and she describes the phone call she got. She was pregnant at the time. She falls to the ground. You can only imagine the level of anxiety she's going through. Number one, with her, what's going on with her sister, but also the fact that she's pregnant, this kind of level of stress, I mean, it's not good, right? So we see they show different footage throughout this. Like, one of the things for me that this series did is it really focused in on and showed us how vast the searches were, how big it was, like how much this had an effect on everything, you know, the severity of it, right? So we hear officers talking to Keith, you know, about the details of her, going over that. He's very upset. We see footage of the searches. They're massive. Okay, so then they talk to neighbors and stuff. They start talking to them, because remember, in these cases we always see is you look to the husband first, you know what I'm saying? So they start talking to neighbors, and some of the neighbors are like, yeah, we hear screaming and yelling, we hear this, we hear that. Other neighbors are like, no, they're totally fine, we never heard anything. So you're getting this kind of stuff, and obviously you have to sort through, well, what's normal, right? Like, is the screaming and yelling, like, what are we talking about? And so, you know, they're kind of walking you through the level of what you do in an investigation, and the all eyes are on Keith type thing or whatever. So please help. Okay. Let me just scroll up here. So there's a lady named Jennifer. This is Sherry's best friend, or was. She recounts Sherry telling her that Keith said if she ever left him, he would chop her up into little pieces if she tried leaving. But Jennifer's like, I've never seen this side of Keith. And yes, Sherry was dramatic and extra. So my whole thing is this. We'll hear from various people in this, and this is what Sherry does. Pardon me. This is what Sherry does. She goes to this person and says, this person's abusing me. Then she goes to that person and says, that person's abusing me. It's like this attention thing that she does, and pitting people against her, so that she's always, I don't know if it's like the victim, I don't know what she's after, right? But she does this. And the fact that her friends and family know, like, I'm speaking in terms of like, yeah, we love her, but she was always been extra, right? You know what I'm saying? Okay. So then we see interviews with the police officers, like they're interviewing Keith down at the station, that type thing, and they're asking him about this yelling, you know, and they're like kind of being real upfront with him and saying like, look, you know what, this is how this goes. You're the husband. We start from the inside and work our way out, and we have to look at you, you know, and that's what we have to do. Thank you, Lynette. I appreciate it. Lynette says, your channel always makes my day brighter. I really appreciate that. And so, you know, they're real up front with him. And he's like, look, Sherry gets physical. Like, yeah, I'm not going to lie. We get into arguments. She gets physical. You know, we'll talk about some of that later. And one of the first examples is he's talking about this situation where he basically finds out she's talking to some hot dude, you know, and Sherry has an issue with, she has a wandering eye, right? I mean, Keith is a pretty good looking dude, you know what I mean? So the fact that she's like out there looking, I mean, it is what it is, right? I guess the grass is always greener. Well, this happens, and he gets this. I thought this was interesting. He says this causes him to get a post-nuptial, and basically from there out, their money is separate. And it's like, nope. And so good on him, though. Thank God he had that foresight, right? Now, here's the other thing with that part, too. That, I think, will play into, I think it's like part of her motivation, and they'll talk about this later, like for the power, because she basically was kind of at this point like rendered powerless, right, in the relationship. He had all the power. So she's working at ADT and doing really well. Well, they let her go, though. And she gets a severance package. Well, she lives off this. She gets a boob job. She does this kind of stuff. Now, Keith makes it clear. He's like, look, if she leaves me or we split up, she's not getting anything, right? Like, I get the house. Like, he's got all the chips in his corner. Again, thank God, right? Now, hold on for a second. I got to go turn this off because it will keep beeping. I'm sorry. sorry. The dryer absolutely hates me and has a personal vendetta with me. Okay. So then, and I'm just jumping down from topic to topic here with how I did notes. Then they talk about online sleuths and their theories, and they'll sprinkle this throughout the whole docuseries, and they do this in most docuseries now, where they bring in and kind of show like what the online chatter is from creators and stuff like that. Pardon me. And they talk about how sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's really bad, and the good and the bad that it does. Okay, so most everyone in this will talk about what a good mother she was, like what an amazing mother she was. Like she was just this super mom. She was awesome, so on and so forth. Keith takes a lie detector test at one point. He does pass it. This kind of changes things. Obviously, the chips are turning, this type thing as well. But this does help him out. It's like, okay, we can start to move past Keith. Now, her parents talk to the news about how mad they are that someone took their daughter. This is like, appears to be, previously or whatever. Please hold. Okay, then also they compared this case to Tara Smith case, which was also local to there and very similar. Young blonde woman goes missing. And this will come into play later as well, because like when you want to talk about the level of shame and embarrassment and victimization of innocent people that Sherry did, her family, Tara Smith's family being one of them, of her just lying to their faces and aligning herself with their victimhood or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? It's bad. Okay. It sounds like pardon me. It sounds like Sherry had kind of a rough home life growing up. There was really not much love, it sounded like. And then also, where are we? Her sister was more like a mother. Sherry drops out of school. She runs away. Her sister says that when Sherry brought Keith home, basically everybody's like, oh, thank God, he's like basically this normal dude. He's grounded. He's a good man. He's a good man. I don't know where that line came from, but every time I say it, he's a good man. And not, it's a good day. That's a whole separate one, but there's some line from a movie where it's like, he's a good man. I don't know what it is. But anyways, so okay, then they interview a dude who had like this tryst with her, Sherry, when she was like on a little conference with AT&T while they were at work conference. And he said that she describes Keith as a monster, okay? And he says that they basically like kind of hung out for the evening. I don't think they did it, but who knows? He could have been saving her a little bit of face there. But they keep up with each other over the years. And there's several times where they'll try and get together, but it just doesn't work out. But she makes an effort to try and meet up with this dude. So again, it just goes to show where it's like, she's got a good man at home, and it's not enough, right? Now, the cops tell Keith this theory of her, so they go over some theories with Keith. So they start being like, look, we got to look at all these things here. You know what? She could have been abducted. She could have just run off, because this starts to look like a possibility, right? Like when you start seeing like, look, dude, I don't know how much you know about this, but your ladies, she's got her eye on other men's. This could be like she just doesn't want to be here, right? So there's that. Now let's move to episode 2. Okay. Keith talks about she's returned. She comes home. She calls 911. She's on the side of the road, chains, all this type of stuff. Very dramatic, of course. And Keith talks about going to the hospital and seeing her for the first time. And he's like, I had these thoughts of, did she run off? Like, is this Gone Girl? Is this this type of stuff? And he's like, when I saw her, all of that disappeared, because he talks about how bad off she is with injuries. And it's not funny at all, but what goes through my mind with this, I'm sorry. Y'all, we're going to get to it in a second, because I lost it today when I was recording the video about this. Y'all, when they first of all show her injuries and then describe what she did to herself to get these, I'm like, y'all, like, who does this? It's so bad. I'm just like, my God. Okay? I'm like somebody who literally is like messed around and has the entire world looking for them. And it's like at that point, it's like, you better get over some stuff. You better break your nose. You better break your own damn nose. You better look like a damn dump truck ran over you. Okay? I mean, I'm talking like you got the whole damn world looking for you. You better look like a damn dump truck backed up over you. And smile and grin and bear it. Okay? I mean, something, right? Like, come on. Okay? I mean, the ex-boyfriend describes what he had her do. Y'all, I cannot even. Okay, so let's keep going. So he comes in, he's like, this melts away, right? Because he's like, she's so jacked up, like, there's no way that like she made this up. So Keith says she doesn't, during this time, she doesn't want law enforcement. She doesn't want to talk to law enforcement. You know, she's triggered by them. She said one of the kidnappers said that one of the law enforcement was part of it. She's scared of them. You know, no, she'll talk to Keith though, and this is when it starts coming up that she's saying, you know, it was an older and younger Hispanic pair, Hispanic ladies that took her. I'm sorry. So, wait on them. Her sister also recounts the first time that she sees her sister Sherry and how bad off Sherry looked. Okay, so then they go into this hunt for the two Hispanic women. Yeah, they talk about this a little bit. So then a few days after the cops interview her, so this first initial thing or whatever. No, I'm sorry. A few days after this, the cops want to interview her, but she'll only do it with Keith present. Well, now we know why, right? But during the time, you know, they're kind of going along with it or whatever. Like, you know, he doesn't want to upset her. They think that she's an absolute victim in this. So she says that day, she's talking, like, recounting, like, what took place, whatever. So she's like, well, that day I texted Keith to come home for some nookie at lunchtime. Now, Keith will recount, and he'll say, you know, I often wonder if I had gone home that day for a little nookie, if things would be different, if we would be where we're at today. Now, I'll say this, when we talk about what they said that she was doing to her children, they learned, my personal opinion is, if she had not done this to get attention, she would have gone a different route, and it could very possibly have been taken out on the children through, like, Munchausen's, things of this nature, right? Like, she was going to get this twisted attention somehow. It was a matter of how it came out. So, honestly, I know it's horrible what she did, but if you want to, like, compare, like, okay, where are we going to be at her doing some insane self-harm and pulling this mess, or finding validation and attention through harming the children, I really think it would. She's giving, I'm going to do something to my husband or the kids and write a book about it. Well, she is writing a book about it. You know, but, like, that's what she's giving, right? Okay, so, but we'll get to more about that here in a little bit. Okay, so he doesn't come home for that, whatever. So now she gets all choked up talking about the abduction. She has to stall, right? Of course she does, right? So she's talking about it. She's like, a vehicle went out. You know, vehicle backs up. It stopped. It backed up again. Then a woman had a gun. You know, and it just goes on. Now, so we kind of jump cuts. Keith talks about the paparazzi and the issue with this. Now, again, remember, during this time, she's viewed as a victim, right? We don't know what all horrible stuff happened. So the paparazzi part, it's like, seriously, people? Like, seriously? Like, I mean, this is horrible, right? Like, this woman's been through so much. That type thing. Okay. Now, this is another bizarre thing, and y'all help me out with this real quick. I'm going to say it, and then I'll tell you what I want your help with. So my note here says this. So Keith talks about, like, their first date they went on him and Sherry. And she basically tells him the story about how she's married to a military man, but they got married, like, for mutually benefits, right? She needed heart surgery. He wanted whatever out of it. But she's, like, telling Keith, like, but look, we're getting, you know, divorce, like, so it's all good. So he's like, so we just kind of kept going, right? So do we know, is that true? I haven't looked it up yet, but is that, I mean, was she really married to a military man, or did she make this up? I think she just made it up. So then we go to talk to Keith's aunt, okay? And she says her first impression of Sherry is, what's wrong with her? She's so pretty, she's so nice, what's wrong with her? You know what I mean? But then so over time she realizes like Sherry's just really, really sweet. That's just her, you know. So then it moves to the narrative of the story starts to get ripped apart on the internet, right? People can smell, they can smell this kind of stuff a mile away. So people start talking and they're like, I don't know about all that, right? So then Keith talks about getting Sherry into therapy. She wants Keith there. The therapist suggests for her to write a book. She writes a book that's basically more like her account of what happened, and it's called The First 22 Days. It's like her perspective. So Sherry recounts in detail during this interview things like the branding and whatnot, about the sizzling of her skin, the feeling, all this type of stuff. So now here's what good. The friends and the family start talking about all the triggers and all the eggshells they had to walk on around her, which they were willing to do when they think that she is a victim. She can't meet new people. You have to sleep with all the lights on. No black beans. No mailbox. She was triggered by Hispanic women. And I'm just like, the fact that she then tries to say that she's not racist and stuff, it's just, after all of it, it's like, what? Because especially now knowing that she made it all up, now she had a reason for all this. Like, they would put poison in my food. So, there's that. Hispanic women kidnapped me, so I can't be around them. I can't, the COVID times, the mask. The Hispanic women were wearing the mask on their face, and that's triggering. It just goes on and on and on. This. So let's just say this: if you've watched it, I think her end goal was she just wanted all this attention. She wanted Keith at home. She wanted to control the household, whatever. But it's like, well, what was your end goal after that? Because, you have to make money. What do you want Keith to do? Just sit at home and you sit at home too? Somebody has to make money, right? Maybe she thought they'd go viral and get a show. I don't know. But it's insane. She was a total baby. She milked that. Y'all, she milked that, okay? And it drove them crazy, but they went along with it because, again, they thought she was a victim. So they were like, okay, we have to, go along with it. Okay. This next one I'm going to read, y'all, this one made me sick. So then one day she's like, look, I'm ready to have people over. I want to have our friends over, but I want to have this little group thing where they talk about, the moment they found out that I was alive. And Keith is like, it was very emotional, but something about it also felt really weird, right? Can you imagine? Because you would at a certain point have to be like, that he saw these little nuances of the attention seeking, but he's also probably used to it. You know what I mean? Because she's so whatever. I know. Boom, there we are. Hold on. Hold on. Where did I go? Sure. Oh. Yeah, he says it feels off. So at one point he expresses his concern to the therapist where he's like, I don't know if I always believe Sherry and the story that she's telling. And the therapist is like, well, let's walk through this, Mr. Keith. Okay, let's really walk through this, okay? She hasn't really changed her story. And then they're like, and look at the injuries on her. No one would do that to themselves. They're so bad, nobody would do that to themselves. But Sherry would. Woo, Mama Jama, we'll talk about it in a minute. Y'all, she went all out on this one. Okay, so we get Keith. Okay. Now, also on the note of scars and stuff, she has these 2 scars on her back, and Keith recounts her telling him that an ex did it. Now, remember, this is her thing. Another man did it to me. Then that man, but another man did it to me. Now, her best friend Jennifer says that she says it was her father. It's always somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Well, it turns out it was she doing it to herself. Of course, this is kind of her thing or whatever. Okay, then during this time, so Keith's trying to work through. Keith wants to know. He's basically like, who did that? Who's destroyed my family like this? Put us in this. We were going along and now we're here. I want to piece clues together. So he's always drawing this layout of the apartment. What do you remember of this, that, and the other, whatever. So he's like piecing together the shape of this apartment and furniture in it and finding stuff on the internet. So he's always on there doing this, and this will pay off, right? So then they talk about the sketch artist that comes in to create the sketches of the alleged Hispanic women. Now, basically, one woman in the documentary, she was describing it. I guess she was maybe a member. I forget how she's related to it, but she's a member of the community, right? And pardon me, she's talking about like her and her friends, because she appears to be Hispanic. I'm not sure where exactly she's from, like where her nationality is 100%, like what country or whatever, or if she's from Cuba or whatever. But she's saying that she and her friends are basically like, "What, girl? I'm not gonna walk down the street with you." Because we don't want to be a pair, right? She was like, nobody wanted to, she's talking about the damage that it did to the community, to her community. And so she's, describing this and, going through it. And then she's talking about the sketches of the women. And she's like, yeah, we knew something felt weird. She was like, they looked like 80s stereotype gangster girls. Like, something didn't feel right. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, nobody knows this. Hey, Jenny, how's it going? Complete side note, Jenny, but I saw your picture on Derek Lassiter's Instagram. I think it was him and Stephanie. They posted pictures from CrimeCon. You were in there. I was like, it's Jenny! Hey! So, it's interesting to hear, again, there's numerous layers and communities and intersections of people that she damaged, meaning Sherry did. Okay, so they talk about, like, something's off with the sketches of the women, the community, the fear that the community in general, like just that area, didn't matter like who you were, especially women, were afraid, right? Then we get to the blog post. It's by Sherry Grafe or something like that. It comes to surface, and it's basically this blog post that has major racial aspects to it, okay, against Hispanic community. Now, Sherry will deny writing this. And she's like, I didn't write that. She's like, we tried to hire a lawyer to get it taken down. I'm like, really? You think that's how the internet works? Okay. Well, and her best friend's like, I never saw any kind of racial stuff, with her or whatever. Yeah, she 100% wrote this letter. I mean, I that is alleged, okay? I don't know that for a fact, but just from what I've seen, this would be completely on brand with all the other stuff, okay? She definitely has, stemming from some situation, whether in high school or whatever, with someone from the Hispanic community pissed her off, okay? And she has carried that damn grudge her whole damn life, okay? And I think that was part of the fact that she chose, when she decided who it was going to be, she said it was two Hispanic women. I think she was trying to make it look like she was trafficked or something like that, and she just went, that direction. And yeah, says for some reason it was always rated Hispanic women. Yeah, it shines through her. I don't know if it's a hatred or whatever, but that's there, right? So, but they can't 100% ever prove that she did this letter. So, whatever. Okay, so then they're talking on that, and Keith's like, yeah. So one day we got a phone call from the FBI, and they're like, look, we need you to come talk. We need to have a talk with you. And they're like, oh, cool, it's been a while. Like, maybe they've got some good information. Well, my God almighty, buckle your damn seatbelt, because they had some information, all right, but it ain't what Sherry was hoping for. Okay. Or Keith, So now they go down there and they start, I call it a soft launch. They start to soft launch the idea of the fact that they know what really happened to Sherry. Okay. This is, if you want, I did videos on this in the past. I damn near thought about redoing it because it's just it hits different. It's one of those, I could do another series on the same commentary on like Sarah Boone, and I would have completely different stuff to say this way. I almost thought about going and redoing my videos on Sherry Papini's interviews, because if you are looking for insane amounts of cringe, and I'm talking insane amounts, you just go watch Sherry Papini's interviews that they do when they bring her in and start to do a slow roll of we know what really happened. It is absolutely painful to watch. Please hold. Because she is so caught. She is so caught. And she digs those heels in the sand. Digs those heels in the sand. So, where my eyesight go. Okay, so they talk about the DNA, and they're basically like, look, we've got, a familial DNA. They explain that, like, so what it means is, we've been able to trace this DNA to a person, whatever, And so then the docuseries rewinds 3 days prior in Costa Mesa, and they're at her ex-boyfriend James's house. So James is her ex-boyfriend. She dated him. He's a hockey player. He lives about 8 or 9 hours away in Costa Mesa. And the cops basically, through their little whatever, trace down to here, right? So they go to the house, and they want to talk to him and whatnot. And basically one of the cops is like, we're looking around his house, and we're like, this is the house, this is the layout. There's very specific things in there that she described that they're like, this closet is a very unique situation. The room, the bedroom, the window, the everything matches up. And here is the thing that takes place is she's mixing truths with tons of lies. So she's able to sit there and sound believable because she's describing, thinking they'll never find it, the apartment that she was in, or house, whatever. Well, when they finally do, it bites her in the ass. And the husband has custody right now, but she does get some very limited supervised visits, which I think is probably a little too much, and you'll understand why in a minute, because the situation with her children gets worse with what she was doing, besides what she already did, which is bad enough, right? So, okay. So there's that. They're like, we've got our guy, right? So then the docuseries flashes back to the interview with Keith and Sherry, and they're going through this, and they're basically like, look, they're just running through this stuff. She's denying this, right? And Keith is like, well, she's not denying it yet, because they're basically talking like they haven't really laid it on to her yet that like this, we know you're lying. So Keith's kind of sitting there like, oh my God, they got a familial DNA hit. Of course you would be like, come on, let's go get him, let's go bust him, right? So then they basically start to get up, and they're like, look, so we talked to a family member. They totally saw you at this place. They totally know you're there. Before we go any further, we just want to ask you, do you want Keith to be in the room for what we're about to tell you? Keith. It gives me goosebumps. Can you imagine your world getting ripped upside down, already being ripped upside down like that? It's like, they're like, look, do you want him to be here for this? Because it's getting ready to get toe up in here, basically. And she has to double down, right? She can't, say whatever. So she's like, no, I want him here. So they're like, well, let me give y'all a moment here, okay? So they leave the room, but of course they're watching. Well, then she starts talking about, I don't want them to arrest her. It's because I don't want her getting in trouble. She's talking about the younger one. She's like, because basically she's trying to say the younger one, let her go. And she's like, she saved my life, and this, that, and the other. We already know that Keith's sitting over there like, what? What are you talking about? Like, are you serious? Like, huh? So when she starts to go down this road of that, the cops have heard enough, right? And they're like, they come back in, and they're kind of like, look, here's the thing. So she doubles down with the cops a little bit longer, and they're like, okay, look, we have DNA, and it came back to James Ray. And she just breaks down. It's like, oh my God, there's no way. but he loves me. And and this is what I'm talking about, y'all. It's so painful. It is so painful. Okay. I'm just like, I can't with this. All right. I cannot. It's just, yikes. So then we flash back to James, right? So James and like they're playing these audio things or whatever, and James is like, she told me she was trying to get away from her husband. So he rents a car. He goes to get her. There was no females involved. They drive 9 hours back, and basically he does like whatever she asked him to do to help create like all the bruising. Some of it she did to himself while she was gone. She restricted her own food. He did help brand her. So he's like talking about, you know, well, yeah, she like asked me like hit a hockey puck off her leg, and then for her nose, he said that she told him to hold a hockey stick, and she got back and ran into it to break her nose, and that's why I was like, this woman is insane. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, you have to override a lot of stuff to cause like physical like harm to yourself like that. Like if you were to sit here and be like, Paul, back up and run into that wall as fast as you can to crack your head open. That takes a lot, okay? Like, that takes a lot. So, my theory on it is this. Now, the branding thing, like, he didn't want to do it, but he was, like, doing what she said. And even the cop was like, I think that she, meaning Sherry, manipulated him just like anyone else. He was like, that being said, I personally don't think I have any friends that would do this stuff to me. Like, to help a friend out, like he says. You know, he's like, but that's just my friends, right? And I'm thinking like, yeah, but the other thought process too, we don't know what the truth is. You know, they're talking about they didn't have sex, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. You know, now the other part of it too is this, and I said this earlier, this is what I was talking about, where I was like, if you were him and you're watching this unfold and like it's blown up to the level that it did, you're going to have to pull some next level stuff. Okay? Like next level stuff. You're going to be like, this is like you go to prison for a long time kind of thing. And especially him, because he's lucky that she didn't completely blame him, which I think she probably was going to. I mean, you heard her at one point say, okay, so James is involved. Okay. You know, and it's like, so he knew he was going to have to tell on her. Please hold. Yeah, Adventures from Life says, James just wanted the nookie. I will never believe otherwise. Amen. 100%. That's what I think too. I personally think they probably hooked up. How could they not have? She throws everyone under the bus. Yeah, he thought. Yeah, he thought like what he thought he was getting was a nookie, and it was completely different, right? Completely. So then he's like, one day she's just like, I'm ready to go. She like grabs her stuff up and gets everything. Oh, thanks, Lauren. Just gifted 5 memberships to everybody. Woohoo! Again, good night, Lauren. Have a good night's sleep. So he's like, basically, she just gets up one day and is like, look, I'm ready to go back. She missed her kids. She this and that and whatever. So he's like, went and got her chains, her zip ties, all the stuff she asked for, and then we drove back. And at a certain point, she just hops out of the car, and he turned around and drove back. And yikes. Okay, hold on, let me find this. Okay, so now they jump cut back to the interview of him, Keith, Sherry, the cops. They call her out on her lies, and she's finally like, we need a lawyer. We need a lawyer. Okay. And Keith says, at one point, he's like, I want to talk to the cops. Let's go out here. Because he's like, I'm ready to, I'm pissed, right? So the cops are basically like, look, you got to be careful with what you say, because she could hurt herself. Maybe you. This is a desperate woman, right? So you have to be real careful how you play your cards right now, right? So they finish everything up. Well, then at the end, they're like, okay, we all can go home. And I, too, he's like, I was waiting for them to arrest her. And I'm like, I would have damn near begged for it. Can you imagine the car ride home? What do you say after that? I mean, what do you say, right? So here's the thing. she's trying to talk her way out of it. He doesn't want to hear it, so he kicks her out of the house. So she calls the aunt up, and she's like, look, I need to come over. I've been thrown out. Well, all her family people know is that she's, been through this traumatic stuff, this, that, and the other. And Keith kicked you out? Can you imagine? So she goes to the house. Well, then, and this is the weirdest thing, nothing happens. I mean, for like 19 months, nothing happens, right? So now during this time, she starts working, she's denying this 100%. Of course she is, right? And she's sitting here, okay, so James is involved, and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. See, they're just trying to scare us. That didn't happen. And he starts to second guess his decision. And he's like sitting here like, okay, if I'm wrong, I've just thrown my wife out of the house who was victimized for 22 days. Could I live with myself over that? And he's like, no, I couldn't. Like, I mean, that's my wife, the mother of my children. Like, the cops haven't called back. So she's going to come back home. So she does that. Okay, so now Keith also says that Sherry used to say that James used to abuse her. So again, she just does this, right? After this, nothing happens for months. Basically, life goes back to normal. So behind the scenes, what's going on though is they're doing the research. Like they're building a case against her, right? They know it's just a matter of time. Okay, so they're building the case up against her. Well, basically, what happens is they finally get enough evidence, and part of that is the fact that they find the burner phone. Like they get the burner phones, and they're able to find, like they can trace these, and they get a direct, and they're like, okay, we got her, right? Here we go. Now this is like 19 months later, so she's thinking she snowed everybody over again, right? And she's being extra with all the stuff. Now, and Keith will say, like, with all the little rules she needed, he's like, one day she did something, and he gets super pissed, and he's like, can we please go one day without talking about your 22 damn days? And she's like, she gets all upset. She's like, I have to live with the fact every day that you didn't find me. Oh, thank you, Aussie Crime Cases. Aussie Crime Cases donated gifted a membership. Thank you. And so she's all pissed, right? So that is one of the reasonings for him saying, I think her motivation was like me to be the knight in shining armor and to come rescue her. Like she had a story, right? She had the story in her mind or whatever. Okay, so year goes by, 19 months, whatever. The FBI's like, we're ready. Let's take her down. Okay, she's going down. Nah, she's yelling timber. Okay, so they're like, we're going to plan this stakeout, right? So they do this whole little thing around the house. They're going to wait for her to come in for the house. They don't want the kids, all up in it, whatever. So they don't want her holed up in there doing some crazy stuff, right? So she leaves the house finally at 2 p.m, right? So she's going there following her, and then like realize like she's going to this like music store thing or whatever, and they're like, she's taking the kids to music lessons. Oh my god, she's got the kids with her, right? So they go in and they're like, look, this is what we're going to do. One of the FBI agents is going to go in there talking about, oh my god, I think I just hit your car. She'll come out, we'll arrest her. Well, when she does that, the kids run out with her too. So they're like, oh my god. So they do that. She gets arrested in front of the kids. She throws the phone to her son and, call your father. And that's what happens, right? So the news hits the airways. This is getting more recent times here. And when I tell you that the world is like, what? Okay? What? Now, 5 days later, she gets out of jail. Now, this part's creepy as hell, okay? But completely on brand for her. So, Keith is like, she wants him to meet her at the aunt's house. So, he goes over there. And he's like, she pulls me into her bedroom. And it's like just stripping down immediately. Basically talking about, I want it, I need it. And he's like, what? You just got, And she's like, I need to take a plea deal. We just need to make it go away. I'll do a plea deal. But he's like, she basically doesn't care about what happened. All she wants to do is have sex. She's trying to take my clothes off. Now, I was waiting for him to say, so I did it, but he claims that he left the house without hooking up with her because he was just freaked out. He was like, I didn't know, I didn't know what to say, It's just like, dude, what? So he leaves, right? Okay, so this goes on. Now, I'm trying to save some of my thoughts at the end of it. So eventually, and this is again more recent times, she will plead guilty. She will take a deal. She will admit that it's a lie. She gets 18 months, has to pay a ton of restitution, this type thing. So it turns out now the officers would tell him, it took her a long time, but she finally admitted she lied. She was sitting at James's house with a burner phone watching this play out from the comforts of the bed, right? Now, the friends and family have theories about why she did this. Attention, gaining power in the relationship, a narrative of him being the knight in shining armor, so on and so forth. But really, you can't know why somebody does something crazy like this. Now, Keith will start showing some books and stuff like that she has around the house, and in movies, Gone Girl, all these books that are very similar to situations like this. And he's like, I think she was taking bits and pieces from each of these to create her narrative. Now, Keith says that these days she's on her own path. They show him going and visiting James's place where she was at. Now, it was weird to see him in that space. Now, she does have visitation with the kids, but it's supervised. She talks to him on the phone a little bit. Now, Keith talked to the Today Show. He said they speak to her on the phone once a month or every other week. Shortly, it'll be every week. So let me just say they speak to her every week, and they see her in a professionally supervised visitation once a month. Now, according to People magazine, Sherry lives in Northern California, and notes from a visitation supervisor obtained by the Record Searchlight indicate that she is writing a book. Keith also told Good Morning America in June 2024 that Sherry has a new boyfriend, though his identity hasn't been revealed. Also, back to that record spotlight, the person who's in the room or whatever had this to say. She said this about her employment. Mommy is an author now. She's writing 2 books. I work lots of hours to write chapter books. So when I tell you I'm working remotely, that means I'm at home writing chapters on my laptop, Papini said. Now, another thing that takes place is Keith talks about how ashamed and embarrassed he was of, talking about, look, she went to, I can't remember, I don't have it, the other young lady who was a victim of this similar thing in the area. We went to their house, to their parents, and she talked to them like she was, a victim too. All the money she stole from the victim funds, just going back, all the lies that she told, right? And then he's like, but then also towards the end, one day I was at home and I had this cough. Please hold. And I'm coughing, can't make it go away. And my daughter is or our son, one of them is why don't you do the trick that mommy does? And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, mommy will take rubbing alcohol and put it on a rag or something like that and have us breathe it. Oh, thank you, Triella. I hope I said your name right for gifting a membership. He's like, she'll have us breathe it. Well, it turns out she's putting these little things of Ziploc bags around the kid's neck with rubbing alcohol to make them sick and then taking them to the doctor. And he's like, what the, what, okay? And he was at that point, because, he was still mourning the loss of his life. No matter how it ended, it still ended in this tragic way, right? He said when that happened, and it gives me goosebumps, when he found that out, it accelerated him into 100% over this woman, right? It just confirmed everything. Do not regret this. It did, because he's why did life have to go this way? What if I came home that day? What if I had done this? Well, then with this, he's like, oh no. He's like, oh no. Oh, thanks, RJB. They gifted 10 memberships. Thank you. So that's what I'm talking about, where, he's kind of beating himself up, talking about, well, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? And I'm like, it was going to be something if she was finding attention to these kids. That's severe, right? Can you imagine? It was going to get a whole lot worse than this. This is bad what she did, but I'm talking this is somebody who was probably going to futurely, do some serious harm to the children or Keith or something like that. Next stop off is actual poisoning. The fact that I pray, okay, that the visit stays supervised, right? You have very Corey Richards. So, please hold. I said, hey. I said, how? Yeah. Video. Wait, hold on. Play it up. Hold on. Let's see here. Come on now. And there's a few more memberships for everybody. Woohoo! Yeehaw! Woohoo! Enjoy them. Thank you. So there's that. Now, I want to say a couple of things. So that's the notes that I took on it. So my understanding is she has some wealthy boyfriend now. They live in some very expensive home. There's several lawsuits going on. She hasn't paid the money back. She's got a lawsuit against what's his name, Keith, so on and so forth. Okay, so here's the thing. When this came out, like, obviously at first when these things happen, it's like, oh my God, the husband did it, right? This is just normal. Or if it's like, the spouse did it, but in this case it's the husband, right? So it's like, oh my God, the husband did it. Okay, so then once it was like, oh, she's back, yep, we were wrong, the husband didn't do it. But then her story started to stink a little bit. And then it's like, are they in it together? Because here's one of the things that wasn't working for Keith in the beginning, and I mean, I can remember thinking this and whatnot. So first of all, Keith is very like quick to I know, right? Mel says that's more DD Blanche than Corey Richards. Yeah, Keith's like very emotional. He's not afraid to cry. He's not afraid to show his emotions, which, you know, for me at least watching this, it's like, we usually don't see a guy do that. Or in the world of true crime, it's a little bit nefarious, right? When they're like what seems to be overacting, you know, it's the Chris Watts, it's the, you know, Michael Petersons, it's the, you know, you name it. So it was a little bit like, you know. Also, the fact that they're both really good looking. So this is where I went with it. Like, once it started coming out, I was like, are they like looking for Instagram fame or like a reality TV show? Because they're both very attractive. And, you know, it's like, what's going on? Something doesn't seem right about this. He's standing by her. You know, what's up, right? So now to be able to see behind the scenes, and it's like, he's just like really standing by his woman, like to a fault, right? Because again, this was the mother of his children. This was his wife. So it's like, a lot of these signs were there, but she was also really good at just getting in his brain, I think, and being like, working him over. And he's sitting there, because I could, like, when he was talking about the fact where he was like, what if, like, I threw her out of the house and this is true? Like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? That's where I was like, I can see what he's talking about, right? And then, I mean, again, I don't know. It was just, I don't know. So, oh, thank you, RJB. RJB gifted 10 memberships. Woohoo! So I was glad to see, this is one of the ones where I'm like, I'm glad to see Keith come out and, you know, tell his side of the story. You know, and just hear what he had to say about it. Asking Balloon Boy about you as a Trinity Harry's Creep Master. Yeah, right, Jenny. Yeah, Catabaloo says empaths are often taken advantage of. This is very true. We see this a lot, right? Yeah, Janelle says his kindness was taken care of 100%. So a lot went into this. Again, it's like, how do you... So I was thinking of the betrayal, like the levels of betrayal that you would go through. Because you know that he's like combing over everything that happened and like everything like that took place over the last several years and being like, well, wait, that was a lie too? Like, he would just be doing like the dishes and have a moment of being like, wait a second. When she said she couldn't do the dishes because of this, that was a lie. You know what I mean? Like all the things that she would have gone through to you know, work this situation over. It's insane. So at the very end of it, they show him with the kids, or, you know, playing. Everyone seems to be good. Oh, and this is an interesting touch. So he was talking about like he drives this like cute little truck and they're going to the playground, and he just seems, I mean, to me, like a down-to-earth guy. Almost like looks can be deceiving, because in the beginning they just seemed like kind of like a Barbie and Ken type couple, right? So he's talking to the kids and stuff in the truck, or he's recounting this, I should say, and he's like, look, he's like, what if we could have any last name, like what would it be? You know, kind of going through it, and like I guess the son is like, you know, does this have to do with like what mom did? And he's like, because I like our last name, like I don't want to change it, right? And Keith's like, so, you know, there's that. And I mean, I get it, right? It's like they're going to have, unfortunately, you know, she has absolutely victimized who should be two of the most important people to her in her life, her children, because they're going to have to go through this. And I mean, obviously, they're going to be asking questions, right? I mean, they obviously know enough to be like, mom did some, you know, messed up stuff, to the point of like, let's change her names, let's do this. You can't see mom, she doesn't live here, so on and so forth. I mean, you know, come on, right? Yeah, so Jenny Price says, I hope every penny of the advance in sales goes to charity and doesn't count towards her restitution, and she keeps nothing. They should only accept checks signed over to say, yeah, 100%. I don't know what they'll do, because I talked about this in the, I think I did in the pre-recorded video, where I was like, you know, so here's how I feel about her book. A, do I want to read it? Slightly. Do I want to buy it? Absolutely not. Would it make good for the cringe binge? Because I'm like, what could you possibly have to say, right? What could she possibly have to say after all these lies? Oh, hey, Smog Hobbit, I appreciate it. I hope all's well. What could you possibly have to say about it? I don't know if y'all remember, I started to read... Okay, wait, hold on. Old Soul says, do you think that she told her new boyfriend the truth, or has him thinking something else? She didn't. The TV did. I'm sure she's working him over, because you would have to at some point admit, this is what it is. I messed up. I did this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm changing. I don't know. Like, where do you go? You would have to put a lot aside, but maybe the new boyfriend's like superficial and doesn't care. He just thinks he's got a hot blonde. You know what I mean? Like, that could be, like, we don't know. Like, we'll soon know, right? My prediction is she comes out with a super cringe book, and I'm talking like super cringe. Complete side note, but I always revert back to this case. Oh, let me say this, and then we'll talk about something else too, related to the case I'm about to talk about. So Michael Peterson of The Staircase wrote a book, and I forget what he ended up donating the money to or whatever from it. Well, I got it at one point to be like, let's see, like, what is he trying to say? Couldn't get through it. It was so bad, but now I'm thinking it would be a good cringe binge book, because like there's time between it. I don't even have it anymore. I got rid of it. The money went to some charity or whatever, because obviously it was like, I forget what it was, like Caitlyn sued him or something like that over the book, and it was just so, he tried to just throw anything he could at the wall, right? Okay, so there's that side note. Okay, I went on a what do you call it, on a true crime walking tour of Raleigh last night. Yep, sure did. Yep. It was so interesting, but what was fun is, and I'm saying this because if you look in your town, wherever you're at, so you go to not just a true crime thing, but like walking tour, you know, like some kind of like thing about like a little local tour guide or whatever, you can find tons of different historical type things, and it was so interesting. So we went on that. They did 4 cases and went over it. So then I was like this. I said, do you do any in Durham? And he was like, yeah, every Saturday. And I was like, seriously? And I was like, do you cover Michael Peterson? He's like, we're going to Durham 100%. Yeah, we're doing The Staircase. Sold. So then after that, we went to this restaurant and ate, because I was like, I haven't been to downtown Raleigh in forever. It was so nice. It was such a nice way to get out. It was $16. So, oh, thank you, Verna. I appreciate it. So it was a lot of fun. It was like a really different kind of thing to do. And there's actually people from all over. There was a lady and her daughter. Oh, thanks, Triella. a lady and her daughter from Fort Lauderdale. There was people, obviously, from Raleigh in this area or whatever. But it was really, I mean, it was neat. There's like 12 people there, and we walked around. There's 4 different cases and buildings that he showed us. And it was like from recent, where I was like, oh, this is like 5 years ago, to, way previous or whatever. So it was interesting. So here is the thing. Yeah, I just think so. We're going back to Sherry now. I think that what's going to be the unfortunate part of it is that her kids are that relationship's fractured. She has set her relationship with her children. The trajectory of it is now defined by these actions. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it is horrible what she did to the community, to her husband, to her friends, to her family, to numerous different communities and whatnot. The fractured relationship with her children and what they will go through, because here's the thing, these kids will get in middle school, these kids will get in high school, and that's when, I mean, you already know, right, how kids are, right? Wait, hold on. Mel says her boyfriend's into BDSM, and was like, yep, Sherry's down. Really? And that's also celebrating Mel's 3rd Super Channel live stream. I do appreciate that, Mel. Jenny says, thank you, Jenny. Jenny says, Silver Squad road trip to meet the owl. I know, right? I'm dying to see what it is. It's going to be several Saturdays before I can go. And Old Soul says, watching her son cry when he thought she was upset by my... Okay, yes, that's a good one there. Okay, so Old Soul brought this up. So at one point, Sherry's like trying something hot. It's like a home video. There's a lot of home video footage in this, which is really interesting to see. So she's like eating something hot, and she starts you know what I mean, like how you do when you like eat something too hot or whatever, and you're like coughing up or whatever. Well, her son gets like super upset and like starts crying and everything. Like you can tell the trauma response is high. Now another thing that this just reminded me too that Keith was talking about is, so some of this happened, well, I mean, it didn't, like this played out during the COVID times, and so she used that as an excuse to be like, I'm triggered by the mask and this and the other and going out because the Hispanic ladies were masked when they did this. So he was like, really, when COVID happened, he was like, our life didn't change. He was like, we were already like sequestered in the house, like couldn't leave, couldn't do anything. Now, one thing that I didn't know watching that is I was like, the unfortunate thing is this is a double-edged sword, because the kids probably were experiencing that. He said we were very on edge during this whole time and whatnot, obviously. But also all the home videos of them playing and doing stuff where they essentially have both parents at home, because she, Keith's probably going out doing his thing, making money. She's staying at home a lot because, she's done this, she's allegedly a victim at this time. She's been through all this stuff, whatever. So the kids are probably experiencing this kind of fun time of like mom and dad are always here, right? I mean, they're young. So then to probably get older and realize like, oh, like, how when you get older and you realize like why things were the way they were, like, and what might have seemed like really cool when you were a kid, it's like, oh, but this is why that was, you know what I'm saying? So that part was like, glad they got that experience, but also it's like, that's going to be another, thing or whatever. So it was just, it's a heartbreaking case for the children. And then obviously for other, the other people that she's victimized. Because again, like the community and whatnot, it's like, look, they were scared to death. I mean, who wouldn't be, right? You think you can get plucked off the street like that? Jogging down the road? Come on. When they showed her leaving jail, not after she got, not prison, but jail, y'all, the paparazzi chased her down that damn road. I mean, I'm talking major, okay? Of course they would. I mean, come on, right? It's insane. So, yeah. If you haven't watched it, or if you're not familiar with this case, immediately run and watch it. Immediately. It's good. Okay. Now, like I said, Lifetime did a movie on it, and I know that the cringe on it, because Lifetime, I mean, come on. They make really cringy bad movies, right? If you watch the one on the Lori Daybell thing, I mean, yikes. Okay, yikes is bad. It was really bad. Now, I'm gonna say this. Tomorrow night, I'm going to really try and do another live chat to talk about the other thing, which is Tell Them You Love Me. on Netflix. Yikes. Okay, that one, y'all, had my blood pressure going. That's the other thing I recorded today was that. Whoa, it's yikes. So it's bad. But yeah, I can't. Dominique says I can't stand the Lifetime movies. I can't either. I can usually not get through them because they're so cheesy. Like, they're so bad, right? I can see the addictive nature of it because it's like kind of like a superficial glance over the case, and it's, you know what I mean? Like, I can see how people get into them. Like, it's like, okay, this is like a consumption model for the genre. But if you follow the cases on any level, and then it's just, they're bad. The Nancy Brophy one they did, y'all, it was so bad. It was really so bad. Oh yeah, I would love to do like a play the whole thing. Can you imagine? Wilma says, oh my God, Paul, the Tell Me You Love Me documentary was horrible. I just can't understand. Oh, literally, this is me during the Tell Me You Love Me documentary. This is me right here. Literally, the whole time. The same effect that Abducted in Plain Sight had on me was that, okay? And I'm sitting here watching it. My friend Matt was like, what are you watching? And I started to tell him a little bit, and then he like goes and he's like looking it up on Netflix. He said, don't tell me. I was like, I have not. I said, I have a slight idea of what it could be about, but I literally have somehow managed to not read about what it's about. I just know it's like next level. I was like, do not tell me. I was like, I think I have an idea of what direction this is going to go in, but I don't want to know. And oh, it went in that direction, all right. Yikes. Okay, it went way past it, okay. Yeah, Laura says Lifetime is just low budget exploitation movies. That's like literally on point definition of Lifetime channel. Okay, like 100%. I've been watching, so I re-downloaded Lifetime so I could watch the Gypsy Rose stuff on there. One of them, her next episode comes out tonight, but I have to watch it the next day because I don't pay for it. Well, that's a whole other video. That's a whole other thing. I can't with that. Y'all, that's just a whole new level of cringe. So anyways, yeah, Caitlin says, is this the creepy woman and the disabled guy? Yes. That's the Tell Them You Love Me. Just bonkers. You want to sit here, you want to watch some. Here's the thing. So I'll say this, and I'm going to run because I got to get up early. So one of the things that I was reading and I talked about this in the video I recorded. So some of the people were like, look, I don't, they gave her too much airtime. You know, she's up here doing this, she's doing that. Louis Theroux is like one of the producers that has his hand in it. And he's kind of known for this style of like, I'm going to present this segment, whatever it is he's interviewing. Like, I've seen him do everything, right? I've seen him all walks of life. And he just kind of lets the people present themselves. And the way I say it is he lets them dig their own graves. So he gives her a lot of airtime, but her premise is that she's not guilty of these crimes. Well, within very soon, you're sitting here like, something's absolutely not right with this lady. You know what I'm saying? Like, something's very off with her. And you can start to piece together how, like, yeah, she's off a rocker. This is why. And he's just kind of letting her dig her own grave, to be quite honest. And it's just by the end of it, I'm like, oh, she did not do herself any favors, because she's essentially let you into her train of thought as to why she's an abuser. You know what I mean? And groomed this guy and his family. It was just exactly what she did, in my opinion. It's again, it's so out of left field. Yeah, he really does. He does amazing things. But a lot, like, oftentimes, like, he'll go to some segments of society that you got to kind of be like, I remember one where he was going to, and I don't even know how I can say this on here, but white people that shave their heads, okay, like that segment of, you know, that group of people or whatever. And he just lets them present themselves, and he's in their home and stuff, and then they start putting it together where they're asking him, like, well, wait a minute, are you Jewish? You know, and you're like, oh my God, but he just, like, casually integrates with this whole, segment of society to kind of show you, here this is how this is here. It ain't cute, but this is their life, and so you got to be ready for it, right? Hold on, do you see Fiona Harvey's former boss interview? No. Oh my God. No, this is no, Sherry's not. I'm talking about Louis Theroux and some of his interviews that he's done. Some of like the places that he goes to, the things that he does. No, I haven't heard of that, Adventures. But so yeah, so I mean, he's behind. You can tell his influences and Tell Them You Love Me by the way he just kind of lets everything present itself, and it's just brace yourself. So there's that. Anyways, I gotta go to bed. I hope that y'all are well. I appreciate you hanging out. Everyone, give Emily a round of applause. Yeah, Leachy says, I just looked up. I've seen previews. I thought it seemed weird. Yeah, it's definitely out there. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate y'all. I hope everybody has a good evening. Thank you for hanging out with me. Like I said, I'm going to try and do another live tonight to talk about more in depth that one. I wanted to do them separately because they kind of each of these deserve like their own little thing or whatever. But I'll post it tomorrow to make if I'm able to. I know I'm going to be working till kind of early evening. So if I do happen, it'll probably be a little bit later than tonight's. But we will try. Anyways, thank y'all very much. I appreciate y'all being here and hanging out with me. And until we do meet up next time, y'all just take care. Y'all have a good evening.